Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is April 1st, 2025, at 9:30 in the morning. So now with that, to hear from our next presenter. Representing Noyes.
All right. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'll just pull a copy of the bill up. I'm sorry, I didn't
That's
have
fine.
it in front of me. So basically, what this bill does is we have AmeriCorps programs here in Vermont. Many of the AmeriCorps programs bring young people to our state. We have ECO, which is through the Agency of Natural Resources, where they actually use as a recruiting tool for new employees. They bring people on through the AmeriCorps program, and they have an opportunity to work with them and see if they would make a good employee. And then as jobs come up, they encourage them to apply. They have a good retention there. We have many young people coming here to serve. And the idea of this bill is kind of copying what they've done in some other states by offering in-state tuition, by matching the Ed Award, preferential hiring for state jobs. The idea is these folks are coming here. If we can keep them here, we win. With a 2-year commitment of service, if you go to come here to serve for 2 years and then end up going to school for 2 years or 4, then there's an better opportunity that you'll stay here. That's actually how I'm here. I went to Johnson and never left. So it was a long time ago. Yeah, so the idea of this bill, and the reason, I thought it would be great to have it come here to economic development, commerce and economic development, is because it is a good recruitment tool for bringing young people to our state. And there's actually a white paper that Rhode Island has put together that I should have sent around before, but they really lay it out nicely in terms of what their strategies are of using these federal dollars to recruit and retain a workforce there. And so that's kind of the idea of the bill. I think I've been in here before with this a couple of times around just matching the Ed Award, but this bill kind of expands it and brings in some more just different ideas that the committee could work on. It does have a cost because you're going to be matching the Ed Award, but you do retain those federal dollars here instead of them going to other states, because there are a number of states that match the Ed Award.
Are there any of our neighbors in New England states that?
Rhode Island. Yep.
Questions for Dan?
So thanks. So what's the need? Can you describe a little more what the nature of the incentive is? I think I heard you say matching.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So when you serve in AmeriCorps, you get what they call a Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award. And so it's money that you can use to pay for your school, to pay for your books. And drawing a blank on the amount, I want to say it's depends on how long you serve and if you're a full-time AmeriCorps member. And so the idea is you match it at your state colleges. So that brings those federal dollars in. It doesn't cover the whole cost of going to school, but it's added money.
Let's say the additional award is for tuition and.
Correct. So you just match the Ed Award, and it would be basically providing a discount of sorts. If you spend your federal education dollars here, then we'll match them.
And do you have a feel for the percentage of AmeriCorps volunteers in Vermont who are not Vermonters?
Yeah, so I've served on the board for quite a while, and it's a surprising amount. I don't know the exact number, but a lot of people come here to serve because of, we have some pretty decent programs, mentoring, working with ECO. People really kind of gravitate towards these creative AmeriCorps programs that we have here.
Good to know.
questions for Dan? And do you know if the data is collected on like, the number of similar to what John was asking, the
Right.
number of AmeriCorps members from outside the state, from within the state, the numbers that are going to go to school, the numbers that stay here after. But and
So
I'm not asking you for.
Yeah, no.
Just is there, do you know if there's an availability of that data?
Yeah, so Phil Coling, he's the director of Serve Vermont. I asked him to join me this morning, but he was unable to make it. He actually would have a lot of those numbers. So I'm happy to track it down and also provide everyone with a copy of that Rhode Island white paper that they put together on what they're doing to use this AmeriCorps program.
Yeah, I think.
But it's a considerable amount of people that are from out of state, and just how do we keep them here?
That's what it's all about. Emily?
Do we have a sense of where AmeriCorps dollars are at the federal?
I'm afraid to ask right now. Or who is the new director?
Yeah,
AmeriCorps has always been one of those programs that ends up on the chopping block. Under different administrations, the money goes away, the money comes back. It's the smallest federal agency at $1 billion. There's Senior Corps, there's AmeriCorps, Learn and Serve. There's a whole bunch of different programs underneath the Corporation for National Community Service. I've been involved with it for a long time, and we have different directors, very much political appointees at some level. And then the folks below that, it was kind of recondensed. They really retracted a lot of the management down into different areas, like down into, they had an office in New Hampshire they closed that was Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And they moved it down to like Connecticut or somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a program that kind of ebbs and flows with federal government. But it definitely addresses a lot of social issues around working with the most vulnerable individuals. So they have ones that visit with older Vermonters and take them shopping. They have programs that, mentor kids in schools, run wellness programs through the RSVP program, which is the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, is part of it. That's a non-stipended program. But one thing about the AmeriCorps program that's actually pretty cool is that if you're an older Vermonter and you serve in AmeriCorps, you can transfer the Ed Award to your grandchildren. So it's kind of cool that it has that option.
Is it any college within the state, or is it a specifically state-run college?
That would be
I
up
wasn't clear
to
on
that would be up to us. I mean, if you did it at a private college, you'd have to pay. But like Sterling College matches it. There's a whole list. They have a website of colleges that match the Ed Award, private colleges. But this would be predominantly looking at the state colleges, because that's really where our jurisdiction is. So,
Thank you.
It's sort of more of a comment, but I do think it's interesting to think about AmeriCorps in that sort of workforce development lens. I've known a couple of people who used AmeriCorps to kind of re-enter the workforce as one friend who was home with kids for 15 years and re-entered the workforce through AmeriCorps and stayed at the place that she was placed. And afterwards, anyway, just sort of more of a comment, but it's an interesting thing to be thinking about. That with that workforce development lens.
Dan, thank you.
oh, thank you. And thanks for your consideration on this bill. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next time.
Nice.
Morning.
Sometimes to follow. All right. How's everybody doing today? Good to see you.
Thank
I
you.
was honored to come in until I saw what your witness list looked like today. And I there's about 500 people testifying, so I don't feel too special anymore.
Everyone's special that comes in here.
Good, God bless you, Chair. So for the record, I'm Connor Casey. Welcome to my home district of Montpelier. We love to have you. I work across the hall, and I am here to introduce H 235. And this is a bill that addresses some long-standing inequity in our unemployment insurance system. I want to start with a disclaimer and an apology to Ledge Council. This is a rerun of a bill that had previously been introduced, at least one biennium, maybe two, by Representative Dennis LaBounty at the time there. Dennis had section 1, which I'm not going to lie to you, I read and I don't even know what it means. So I'll be talking about section 2, which really zeroes in on what we're looking to do here, which is a bill to ensure that educational support staff, some of the lowest paid employees that we do have in the state of Vermont, are eligible for unemployment benefits during the summer months, just like other seasonal workers here. So a bit of context on this, ESPs, education support professionals, they'd be like bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, administrative assistants, sort of the people who aren't teachers, but keep our schools running there. They're essential to student success. I think if you look at it these days, and we talk a lot about it during education reform, we're putting more on the shoulders of our schools here, especially as we look at the community model. And some of these folks are on the front lines. Yet, at the same time, they're only making an average of $19 an hour. So very low paid workers compared to the rest of Vermont there. These workers don't have the option to work year round. It's a set schedule there. And their employment is tied to the school calendar. So without unemployment insurance on the summer months, many of these folks who do really good work for our schools are forced to leave public education and find another job. So that contributes to, again, what we're looking at in education now is huge staffing shortages for some of these positions here, especially in special education. You probably remember Dennis LaBounty when he was serving. He would drive the bus, in the mornings before he came and served, because he didn't want to leave him hanging. They didn't have a bus driver up in Linden there. Yeah, he was a hardworking man. So H 235 just removes a few lines there from state law that I believe unjustly excludes school support staff from accessing these benefits. It would align Vermont with other states that do this. I think Minnesota and Oregon just recently made this change here. So similar to like the ski industry, construction jobs, sports staff, I believe should be able to collect these benefits when work is available through no fault of their own. Couple of concerns I'll try to get ahead of. Estimated cost of this is relatively small. It would be about 5.6 million in the education fund. So if you look at education fund, it's doesn't break the bank necessarily, although there's a lot of pressure certainly. And the system already requires employers to contribute to this. So excluding school staff, it's just an outdated and unjust policy, I believe. Many of the staff already take summer jobs. You'll see a lot of them like working at state parks. I've worked retail with some of them in the summers there. But UI eligibility would provide economic security when those jobs aren't available. And it's hard to find a I know myself because, we don't get paid here too much. So I got to like work a few jobs in the summer there, and it's hard to find them, just for a set period of time. So wrapping up, it's a simple, fair fix that helps retain critical school employees and provides the same right as other workers. So I would urge the committee to take it up, and I'm grateful for your time here today. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Question?
And again, I'd probably just get rid of that section 1. Might as well be hieroglyphics as far as I know. It's all right. Hey, good to see everybody.
Herb has a
Oh, sure, yeah. You don't need to pour me a pint to get more than 10 minutes.
Just a little story. I was on a school board a bunch of years ago. We'd get into negotiations and stuff, and it always, it's very nice. But it always sort of struck me that there were two negotiating units, right? And I always felt, and of course, sports staff then as well as now aren't paid that much. It always sort of struck me. I'm less politically naive now, but it always struck me that sports staff would be well served if they could be in the same bargaining unit. Mm-hmm. It would help. They might not get a huge increase in their salary, but at least they'd have that sort of strength, in terms of collective bargaining. Any thoughts on whether that kind of notion is all feasible or maybe an alternative to something like this?
No, it's interesting you said that. Sort of the unit determination, of course, is up to the labor board there. But what you have seen, I don't know if you saw it in your district, was sometimes you do have unified bargaining with the two contracts being bargained at once there. And I always found that was a good way to elevate the support staff to be in the same room as the teachers, all of them together, kind of rowing in the same direction. So I've seen that, and I always encouraged it when I was a union organizer. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a fair observation.
Thank you.
The question? I think a few years ago, we made some changes. I know for teachers, they can elect to receive their pay over a 52-week period instead of, and I think we allowed that to happen for support staff as well, so that they would get a paycheck even when they're out of school,
Sure. Yep.
and still have the ability,
Have a little bit of,
well, and they can still work as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
No, that was a good change. Absolutely.
I think the big problem is that our schools are reimbursable employers. So that means they pay actual, they don't pay into the system, so they pay the actual costs, and I think that's been some of the big problem. And all the reason why it's in law was the federal government required that not a long time ago, before I was here. And so it was put into the statute, and then the federal law changed, but it never changed back.
That's right.
And then now it's really difficult to make that change because of all the issues we're having with the cost of schools. And even though, it's not big money in the sense of, in the scheme of the cost of education, it still is another increase. So I think that's some of the problems.
Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah. And I think you've got an Irish trade bill coming your way in the economic package there. I heard it's a hot hit. So we'll see you later, guys. Bye.
So the committee, all we have until 1 o'clock this afternoon, so we're on the floor at 10, caucuses and lunch. And so let's try to make sure we have forum here at 1 so we can begin. And it's just bill introductions. So any questions?